All right, and now I'm going to start sharing my screen. We've got just a few slides to start with so we can start our introductions so that you know a little bit about the group that's inviting you to get together and talk, and so that you know each other and all of your perspectives too. So that's what we're going to take the first 15 minutes or so of our meeting to do. Give me just a second to get to my screen there. Okay, gang. Can I get a thumbs up from the screen with the two people that have Jennifer Meyer at the bottom of it? Can you see this screen? Okay, super. Thank you so much. So we're going to talk today about your community priorities for projects and programs that support equitable development, environmental restoration in the Blue River Valley. Now, you've probably heard from some of your neighborhood leaders about this meeting. You're invited to come together today, and we really want to take this time to hear from you about this project that we're working on. So first we'll start with introductions around the group. Then we'll talk through just a few key points about a dialogue agreement so that we're all on the same page and the headspace that it takes to really give of ourselves into this dialogue and feel like it's a safe space to do so. We'll have a few questions that I circulated last night for the first community dialogue about what's important to you about your home, what you need to make sure everybody in this conversation knows about your home and the history of it. Then we'll start to talk a little bit about the criteria that you think are most important for really thinking about projects and programs in this area. And then finally, we'll move into a brainstorm about appropriate projects that would really follow those criteria, that true north. And then we'll talk about next steps if you'd like to stay involved in this process. So first, I'll talk to you a little bit about the project team. Our project team is led by the Foundation for Regeneration, which is an NGO dedicated to creating meaningful demonstrations that showcase the promise of regenerative systems. We believe in using the tools of philanthropy, social entrepreneurship, and impact investing to catalyze programs of economic development and social equity and ecological health in the American Midwest. Parson Associates, shown by the logo down at the bottom right, is also a part of this team. Parson Associates is a certified MBE, WBE, and service-disabled veteran-owned firm that's located right in the heart of 18th and Vine. Parson Associates serves its clients as a strategic partner, working collaboratively to provide external and internal communications, outreach, and customer services for major capital improvement projects. A lot of city projects just don't work without Parson Associates. And Hoxie Collective, I'm Christina Hoxie, that's my small business. We're a certified WBE, DBE community planning office located on East 63rd Street. And we build collaborative relationships with underserved communities to support them with processes, information, tools, and partners that they need to achieve their vision of equity and vitality. And Brian is the leader for the Foundation for Regeneration and our project team. And I'd like Brian to just say a few words about our client.
Hi, everybody. So nice to see some familiar faces and a lot of new ones. And thank you for taking the time to be here. The Industrial Development Authority is, they actually created the bonds for the new airport. And they are sort of underneath the EDC as a quasi-governmental entity. And the EDC is focused on economic development citywide, but they've made the Blue River Valley a strategic initiative. They've started that work back in 2017 and sort of rejuvenated it in the last few months with this work. And so we're reporting back with them on everything we do in lockstep for the journey ahead. I know the next slide I'm also taking on, which is around purpose. And there's a lot of words here, but I think the most important thing is that everything that we talk about today is part of a listening journey. We are talking to all the institutional stakeholders, and most importantly, or equally as important, the community stakeholders, to figure out what projects as interventions do we include in all the funding requests, these applications and grants that are available at the moment. So we're trying to consolidate all the ideas and present a short list of ideas, but also a long list of all the ideas for philanthropists, for entrepreneurs, for investors, and also the government funding. And so this will show you like what exactly are we delivering back to the EDC and the IDA in terms of the discovery work. And I think it's really interesting, and we can critique it, but the purpose or like the ethos of what we think that is a option of true north, you know, we can talk about that later, but these first three sentences, reclaim the innovative spirit of place whose model leads the country. So Bob Stork is on the call, and he has a whole portfolio of photos. And you'll know that in the early days, in the heyday of the Blue River Valley, the Model T was manufactured here. And it was things like that where it was really at the peak of innovation of its time. So to reclaim that innovative spirit. The second is optimizing for and integrating health, balancing industry, community, and nature. So each one of those, industry, community, and nature, have work streams. And, you know, I don't think that the past has balanced that as much as we hope the future will. And the third that we have here is creating opportunities for generational wealth by design, particularly stimulating upward mobility for communities of concern. So we want to, for the, you know, this rising, oops. So that's why we're here and talking to you.
Thanks, Brian. Now we're going to go around the whole table of people who are here in this room with us. And we'd like to, we know it's a fairly large group. So in order to move through this a little quickly and hear something meaningful from each other, so we know where we all stand together, we'd like to do this little exercise. First, say your name, you know, give us what organization or neighborhood you're representing here today. And then in one sentence, tell us what your stake is in today's conversation. And the team and I will model this first, so you know who you're talking to here. And then we'll piggyback, each person will pick the next person to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen here so that we can see each other's faces a little bigger maybe. And I'll go first, I'll call on my team members, and then the last team member to go, we'll start calling on community members, and we'll keep going around the table that way. So my name is Christina Hoxie. I'm representing Hoxie Collective today, and my stake in this conversation is my family's future in an equitable and sustainable city. Taylor, I'll call on you next.
Hi everyone, I'm Taylor Rippey and I'm representing Parson Associates. Excited to be here. And I think my stake in this is it's the future of my city that I want to be part of, and I want to have a sustainable and healthy environment in the area. And then I will call on Reagan.
Hey, I'm Reagan Tokus. I am here with Hoxie Collective, and my stake in this project is promoting an equitable and sustainable future in Kansas City. Brian, you want to go next?
Sure. You heard me speak already. Brian Weinberg, Foundation for Regeneration. And my stake is a more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. And I'm going to choose Bob Berkebile, who's on the call.
Bob Berkebile. I'm also part of the Foundation for Regeneration. I have watched this community evolve over time. We're not all excited about what we've become, but I am excited about what we can now become with your input and support. And I'll shift to maybe, if I'm not seeing everyone.
I'll take it, Bob. I think I'm the last one on the team.
Thank you.
I'm Gina Boucher, and I'm with Parson Associates, and I am a proud resident of the eastern part of Kansas City. I also am a historian and genealogist by heart, so this area very much interests me. And Bob, I'd love to see your picture someday. Christina, I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, we'll just start going around with the community members. And I'll start with Christine Williams, and then Christine, you can pick the next person to go, so on and so forth.
All right, hi, I'm Christine Williams. Can you guys hear me? Okay, I'm with North Blue Ridge Association and Agape Grow Education Center. And my big thing is changing one person, one family, one community at a time for a safe area to live. So in multiple different ways, we're trying to reach this. And I'll pick Jan.
I think you're on mute.
My name's Jan Harrington. I'm president of North Blue Ridge Neighborhood Association. And my stake in this is just to find and gather more information about how we can make our community safer, cleaner, and just a nicer place to live for our residents here. And I will pick Britt.
Hi, I'm Brett Creason. I'm representing the Longfellow neighborhood, and I just want to make sure that we can preserve, accessible, natural spaces. And I will choose Gail Burris.
Hi, I'm Gail Burris. I'm with Eastwood Hills Community Association, and I'm interested in the sustainability of community, place, and nature. And let's see, I'll pick Chrissy Dastrup.
Hi, it's Chrissy Dastrup. Thank you. I'm a Hyde Parker, but I do a lot of community work, and I've been following along pretty closely the Blue Valley or the Blue River Valley initiatives, and they're exciting, and there's some amazing neighborhoods around there that I'm excited to see some people from there today. I'm here because I really want to understand the vision that this community has for such a really unique landscape that we have over there. So thank you all for having me. I'll call on Justin Short.
Thank you, Chrissy. Good morning, everybody. I am here with the Downtown Neighborhood Association. I'm very interested in creative placemaking, especially as it relates to neighborhoods. Full disclosure, I am running for the 4th District at Large City Council seat. So I have seen what Hoxie's done in Wendell Phillips, and looking forward to kind of learning some more about the Blue River initiatives, and just excited about the work that's going on, and the reinvestment in our neighborhoods is very exciting to me. So thank you all for having me, and I look forward to the conversation.
All right, I'll pick Matt Bunch next.
All right, I'm Matt Bunch with Kansas City Community Gardens and the Giving Grove, and I would say that most of the decisions that I make are plant-based. I'm a horticulturist, and I'm here for a healthy Blue River for not only the community, but also nature as well. And I'll turn this to Jennifer and Phil Meyer.
We are Jennifer and Phil Meyer, also with Kansas City Community Gardens. And our stake in this project is just wherever we can help improve healthy food access and build gardens and orchards, we're here to listen. I will pass off to Melinda Dillon.
Melinda, are you speaking right now? You are. We need you to come off mute. Okay, well, we'll come back around and try to get Melinda in a little bit. Let's pick back up with Kathy Persley.
Hey. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kathy Persley. I live in the historic Dunbar neighborhood. I'm president of the Heart of the City Neighborhood Association. I'm interested in this project because we have an environmental mecca and in our historic community, and we have food insecurity, and part of our southern border runs right along the Blue River. So we are super excited about seeing some new interest in neighborhoods and doing some work that's close to us and that will benefit us. And I'm like anxious. I was like a kid on Christmas waiting for the meeting to start today just so I could get more information. So I'm super excited to be here. And I'm going to call on Nadja Karpelov.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Nadja, and I work for the Mark Solid Waste Management District. And I am here today. My stake is I have with some partners started an illegal dumping initiative. It is just starting. There's a lot of work to do, and I just need to get as much information and figure out how to move the ball forward on this endeavor. And I will call on Dina Newman.
Dina did say in the chat that her microphone was not working and she was going to try to call in. She's chatting right now, so.
Welcome, Dina. So great to see you. We'll get your audio in soon.
Keep the chat going. We'll go ahead. Well, maybe we'll get Jake to say hi then, huh? Dina's partner at Center for Neighborhoods.
Sure. Can you all hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Jacob Wagner, and I am Dina's partner in good trouble over at the Center for Neighborhoods, as we like to say. I am associate professor at the University of Missouri, Kansas City in architecture, urban planning, and design. I'm excited about this project for many reasons, mostly for folks like Kathy Persley who live in the neighborhoods of the Blue River Valley and the rich history. But I'm also excited because I feel like I've been following this regenerative idea since the Hardesty project was floated a while back. And I think this work of healing these post-industrial places is really important for our region and for the future. So I'm glad to be here. And I will pass it over to Mr. Evan Smalley. I don't think we can hear you though.
We're not hearing you, Evan. Darn. Well, we'll come back to you. Let us know when you've got sound and we'll come right back. Let's see. I don't believe Janice Love has said hello yet today. So let's pick up with Janice and then we'll keep passing from there.
Morning, my name is Janice Love, and I'm the administrator at the Salvation Army on 9th Street, and I am part of the Historic Northeast Community and Neighborhood Board. And my focus for here is coming along, assisting with a healthy and collective community as we are looking to build a brand new building on site for the Northeast. So I want to be a part of it and build a building that's going to bring people together. Nancy Simmons. Has she spoken? Nancy?
I don't think so. Yeah, Nancy, ready? Nancy, can you come off mute and talk to us? No? Okay, well, come back to us when you can. How about Amanda McGee, please?
I'm here. I'm here now.
Nancy, there you are. Great.
Hello, I'm Nancy Simons. I am from the east side of Blue Valley Neighborhood Association. I'm the vice president. I've lived there probably 55 years, and I went to school at Manchester, which is now our big, beautiful Quick Trip. They're going to be building KIPP High School behind that.
Oh.
But we do have a lot of dumping, crime, and we don't have a bus. Bus that can take people downtown or to the doctors or to work or whatever, from Winchester to Jackson. And also we're in a food desert. We have one grocery store, and I am actually talking to Whataburgers to come on Truman Road. If you haven't heard of it, it's Patrick Mahomes' favorite hamburger from Texas. And so we're trying to move the ball forward. And I have a lot of good team members like Bob. That's it.
Thanks so much. You want to go next, Bob? Bob Stork?
I might as well. This is Bob Stork. I handle a lot of the communications for Blue Valley. I've been a Kansas City resident for over 30 years and Blue Valley for 17 now. And I'm a bit of a historian. I have come to realize that the industrial area around the Blue Valley really created and saved Kansas City. It grew up in the 1900s, weathered the city through the Depression, and was allowed to decay through political neglect in the 50s and 60s. And I feel it's the key to reviving the East Side. And, you know, we have to start with broken windows type approach to get the trash off the street and build the atmosphere that'll create the jobs. So that's my emphasis.
Thanks, Bob. I think we've got just a few people left who haven't spoken yet. Megan Freeman, would you like to go next?
Sure, I'm Megan Freeman, and I work with Heartland Conservation Alliance, and our big part of our mission is preserving and conserving the Blue River and making it into a fishable, swimmable, lovable Blue River. So this valley is of very importance to our organization.
Thank you. And Justice Horn?
Yeah, hello everyone. And sorry my camera's not on. I was coming from a community cleanup this morning. But my name is Justice Porn. My role right now is Senior Advisor to the city's Climate Protection and Resiliency Plan. So my role is ensuring that this is being done through an equity lens and that we're centering our frontline communities. As well as full disclosure, I'm also running for the Jackson County Legislature, and District 1 encompasses all of this area. So I also appreciate all of the issues that have been brought up, and climate issues very much being neighborhood issues. And why this is also important to me is, my family grew up in the area. My grandfather was a union president for the Leeds General Motor Plant. I don't know if anyone knows about that, remembers that out there. And our family grew up playing in the creek well before there were any Chiefs stadiums out there. So just really happy to be here and listen to, where this community could go moving forward.
Thank you. Jamie Woolery.
Good morning. My name is Jamie Woolery. I live over by Mount Washington Cemetery, and I actually operate an Airbnb and run a printing company from home. But I am involved in several community projects. I volunteer for the Jackson County Historical Society is one of them, and I just have an interest in preserving and reviving the history, and I would love to see this thrive again.
Thank you. Alicia Cates.
Hi, I'm Alicia Cates, and I'm here. I volunteer with the Dunbar neighborhood, so I'm at this meeting in that role. And I'm interested to see more about how this project or initiatives will help people strengthen their relationships with each other in neighborhoods, and also strengthen their connections with nature in order to kind of be self-sustaining.
Your sound available to say hello?
Are you asking me? My name's Evan Smalley. I finally got my sound to work. Can you hear me?
Can hear you, Evan.
Okay.
Hi, thank you.
Thanks. Honored to be with all of you today. I started a project called the Neighborhood Video Crime Watch, and I've worked with Missouri DNR on water quality for many years, the Project Blue River Rescue, trying to stop illegal dumping, trash, litter, pollution in the Blue River. I may not be on the right Zoom meeting. Nadja said it was going to be about illegal dumping, but as far as I'd say about economic development, I think stopping crime and trash would be a real good start, and it wouldn't hurt for us to work on the water quality of the Blue River too.
Super, thanks so much. Is there anyone who has not had a chance to say hi yet?
Myself.
Hi, Amanda.
Hello. Hi guys, I'm Amanda McGee. I'm here today to help support the Blue River Neighborhood Association, just on my own as a volunteer. I have about 20 years experience in international business, urban planning, and a little bit of architecture. I know a lot of the friendly faces I see here from around town, from other projects I've worked on with natural resources like rivers. So I'm excited to see what can be done about the Blue River corridor. I know it's an asset that has been overlooked for quite some time. And I kind of get excited about this because I feel like I'm almost like a visitor to Kansas City again, after 20 some years of working on things around Kansas City, but to see the revitalization of something that's a really important resource as well as an opportunity. So I'm here to help out with Blue Valley neighborhood as much as possible.
Thank you so much, everybody. Okay, I think we're gonna move on to, unless there is anybody else that I missed.
Hey, Christine, can you hear me? This is Mark.
Yes, hello. Hi, Mark. Mark Morales from Sheffield.
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. Hi.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Forgive me, I'm at work right now, and a couple of my board members were on this panel too. So Bob Berkebile, I'm working here at the Recycle Center and multitasking. But my name is Mark Morales. I've been involved in community development for 20 years, worked for different community development corporations, Old Northeast. We had the opportunity to work with the Blue Valley neighborhood, and all the issues that were talked about earlier. We did the same thing with Blue Valley and Blue Valley Park. We put in a disc golf course, got new eyes and ears in there, conducted many cleanups. But with the Sheffield neighborhood right next door, everybody knows where Sheffield, the old Armco Steel was there. The first Ford Motor Company plant was there in the Sheffield neighborhood. But my stake today is just to see the neighborhood revitalized. We have got a lot of infrastructure in the Sheffield where new homes could be built. So I would love to see create more partnerships and have some affordable housing in the Sheffield neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks for being here, Mark. So the next thing that I'd like to do with you guys, usually I take a little time to just create a collaborative agreement with folks around the table. We are running a little bit behind schedule, and I want to make sure we dedicate as much time to this dialogue as possible. So I'm going to do this a little quicker than I usually do, but I'll go through just a few points that I find helpful to hold in mind as we're creating this space for dialogue. Listening to understand is an important mindset to hold, being respectful and non-judgmental of one another in this space, actively participating, really bringing your whole self and your energy and your... Can I ask that everybody mute? Sorry, I want to hear myself a bunch of times. I think we still have a couple people off mute. Reagan, could you go through and mute our participants just to make sure that's easy for everybody to hear? Thanks. Acknowledge and respect differences and similarities. It's the diversity of this group that makes it rich, and we need to hear everybody's brilliance. Ask yourself, be really intentional about how you're participating. Why are you talking or why are you not talking at any given moment? Really bring your energy to this conversation, but don't repeat what other people have already said. And leave space for those who may be more quiet to share their ideas as well. Look for connections between your ideas and others, especially between those different opinions. Assume good intentions. We all make mistakes, but we're here because we believe in this place and these people, and to know that we're holding the best intentions in space is giving each other some grace. Be kind and generous in this conversation. Be courageous with your ideas and what you put out there for everyone to chew on together. Respect and support the process. And let's have some fun together today. So I want to open it up and ask if there's anything that you disagree with about this agreement, and if there's anything that you think it's important to add. So just going to open that conversation up just for a minute to make sure that this sounds like a good place to start to you all. I'm just scrolling through. I'm seeing a couple of thumbs up. Any other suggestions? And team members, I might rely upon you to help me navigate the chat as well. Anything in the chat that we should look at?
Nope, just a couple chats saying looks good.
Okay, super. Thank you so much. It really takes the whole team to make a good Zoom meeting work. Okay, well, we will move on then into just a little bit of framework about what the boundaries of the area are that we're talking about today. And this focus area is really, has the southern boundary there of Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard and Blue Parkway on the south. The east boundary is 435. The north boundary is up there at the the Big Missouri River and the East Bottoms. And the west boundary bumps in and out a little bit, really Jackson up to 31st and Van Brunt up to the railroad tracks on the west side of Sheffield neighborhood, and then at Belmont and into the East Bottoms. And this boundary really came from a previous planning process. We started with looking at all the plans and data that we have been able to find in this area. And there's been a lot of studies and analysis done. And we are data hounds. We love it. We're taking it all in. But we started really with this upper left-hand corner plan from the EDC, and we expanded their boundaries a little bit to really include all of the neighborhoods that it touched, so that we could, really build upon the community and social equity side of this work. We've also looked a lot at Heartland Conservation Alliance Blue River Action Plan and have talked with a lot of the city department heads that have been involved in creating these plans over the year. And I know that you all have been involved in creating these plans over the years. So rather than talking a lot about kind of all this data that's been collected, we want to move into this next phase of conversation with you about how to take these plans forward. So we're going to go into 2 different breakout rooms right now. Reagan is going to help get us organized into those rooms. You may have to select a button on your screen to go ahead and move over, but these are the 3 questions that we're going to talk through in a little bit smaller group. Thanks so much. So let's see, we've got Gail reporting out for our group. Gail, I will go ahead and share the screen now, and then we'll move over to the report out from the other group. And then you'll be happy to know that we'll take a little 5-minute break to stretch our bones and get a cup of coffee, and then we'll get back together. So first, starting with Gail, we had a wonderful conversation in our group. Would you like to share a few highlights?
Yes. Okay, I will kind of just hit the high points of what you see here. And thank you. I think it was Christine that was taking the notes. But,
oh, that was Taylor. Taylor was doing an awesome job. Keeping things going.
Very good job. The first one, what to know about our place, our community within the project area. It used to be a recreational area, and Christine mentioned that she's seen a number of photographs of it being used all kinds of recreational ways at the turn of the century. There is the farm Pepperberry and the Agape Educational Center that will be formed down near the Truman area, I believe, Truman Road. And that is an asset that needs to be considered and built upon. One of the challenges in the area is also homelessness under I-435 at Truman Road. Dunbar area and Leeds area, heart of the city. Important is the rich Black history for that area, and we need to build on that. And other things like growing a farmer's market. We found that several of our communities are food deserts. So those are the type of things that we need to know and build us around. Economic opportunities, Eastwood Hills, we have the old municipal farm area of the city, and we have Boys Grow using part of the land, and we have Kansas City Community Garden, which shared that they not only are expanding the community garden there, but we'll be adding an orchard this year. Jobs that pay well and are sustainable, not just temporary, is an important part of our concern. Jobs where people can work locally in their communities, possibility of having something like a nature center along the river, having green infrastructure jobs. And we also talked about possibility of trails and other things that build in our community upon actually also connecting with other communities. Let's see. Other things that I should mention: stacked outcomes, trails, the community gardens, the health of the individuals, if we can have the farmers markets and other things like with the trails for physical activities, etc.
Great job. Thank you so much, Gail, for taking that on. You did a wonderful job. Anybody else from this group that would like to make sure there was any point made? All right, let's move on to the second group. I'll pull up that set of notes.
I think that maybe Gina was going to report out.
Super.
Sure. Okay, I didn't, let's see. I did not make all of my corrections, but I'll do the best I can here. The people in this group wanted to make sure that everyone knew that the river was an asset. The history is key, especially about racial tensions, environmental issues, and to remember that there were auto plants there before the stadiums. There was a history of a thriving neighborhood, displacement of our Black community, especially in the Dunbar neighborhood. Some residents have owned their land for generations, and some as long as 62 years, so it's a legacy neighborhood. There are 80 acres of land that are vacant, so it's ripe for development. The General Motors, another part of the history is that it was the first to get Black people in Kansas City working on the line in the factories. There's our environmental opportunities. Let's see what else. By the river, they want to bring back businesses. There's 2 parks in the area, and one of them is the only one named after an African-American woman in Kansas City. And in June, that park will be 100 years old. Let's see. The neighbors want to make sure that people that are loyal to the land are not excised. They've seen some steps in the neighborhood, but they want their partners to have the same vision that they do. This area helped build our city. The river was a travel resource, then industry, and it has an aging neighborhood. Do you want me to go on to the second question as well? Okay, this one, as far as environmental or economic opportunities, there was a theme that environmental and recreational opportunities will come with jobs. So jobs first and then the others. In the 1950s and 60s, the jobs in this area were killed by other things, but now we're ripe for revitalization. Nowadays, they want to put city jails and homeless shelters in this area, but we need to emphasize the Manchester Thruway and the Missouri River Terminal instead. They would like to solve the problem of the food desert. So community gardens and things like that are important. Food stores, banks, and Whataburgers will result as jobs come into the area. They want to engage young people, and they've also worked with Kansas City Parks and Recreation to do that in the summer as far as environmental work. Let's see. They want jobs in the community that people will want to do 15 to 20 years from now. So they're sustainable and they support the community. Green jobs are important. All initiatives should work together in a holistic way that benefit everyone. Things that better the community at large. Restore natural resources. We talked about gardens, and then there is someone made a comment in the chat that the East High School does have a program for educating students, which would fit right in. And as far as, we didn't have a lot of time on this last one, but what's valuable, outdoor and recreation. And again, they talked about the opportunity to use the river for those outdoor activities and recreation, but that they would come as the jobs come in. They talked about getting the river ready for river floats. And getting the people to see it as a natural resource and not just a former industrial site. And then Bob started to explain about why the concrete was in the area to eliminate flooding. And then we had to come back to the group. So that's about it. Anybody else? Is there anything I missed?
The only thing I noticed was that there was a big kind of consensus around green jobs.
Okay, let me throw in one point that I didn't get to and need to emphasize. The thing that killed a lot of the Blue River industrial area was the fact that it was getting known for factories, and that today, especially with the emphasis of the pandemic, we suddenly have a real emphasis on warehouses, just-in-time delivery, Amazon, you know, all the food stores and this sort of thing. And the transportation availability in the Blue River area creates those warehouses. The truck assembly work is a very clean job. We have the opportunity to get these jobs involved with transportation that will go hand in hand with the green jobs. And thank you.
Great points. And all of these questions really in both conversations really seem to piggyback on each other. So they're starting to build that system of stacked outcomes and benefits. Great work, team. Thank you so much. So let's take just a couple of minutes to stretch, re-energize, get your cup of coffee or your glass of water, and then come back together at 10:20. We'll really start on the next part of our conversation to frame those criteria for projects. Okay? See you back in just a few minutes, 10:20. Thank you. Okay, everybody, are you back?
Ish.
Ish. We're
Really
coming
coming
back.
back.
On the way. Awesome.
Time is flying.
It is. Okay, I'm going to pull up our presentation. Hope everybody's in earshot. If I can get a few thumbs up from folks who are coming back in and joining us, I'll know you're ready to go. Cool. Thanks, Alicia. Christine, awesome. All right. Thank you, Jan and Jamie. Great work. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to move into the criteria framework portion of our conversation. Just make the slide a little bit bigger. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Brian to start framing this conversation.
So what we mean by the criteria is really our true north. You know, there's going to be all kinds of opportunities. We've heard some that we don't like. You know, some people talk about data centers and jails, and you know, who knows what other projects can go into this footprint. But there's things that we do know we want. And how do we decide before we even get to the project ideas, what do we really want, and what is true north from a social, economic, and environmental perspective? And so earlier we talked about reclaiming the innovative spirit, optimizing for health in industry and community and nature, and creating opportunities for communities of concern. So before we jump off and just kind of, you know, have some broad stretches or broad strokes of, you know, what that true north is, you know, it's sort of a, you know, when you see it, but maybe we can try and name it together. We'll go to the next slide, and I'll tell you just one industry, and Christina will share another industry that we feel like we want to kind of tease as an industry that we think could be the green jobs of the future that are meaningful. And so you might have heard this term called circular economy. Europe is a little bit more advanced than the US, and this is kind of coming from Europe. And basically what it means is that we have all this waste streams in our industry, in our homes, just as a part of nature taking its course, and, you know, trees falling down. We can use that, you know, those feedstocks and those waste materials and turn them into value. And so there is already a not thriving, but a very significant circular economy in the Blue River Valley. So the Missouri Organic Industrial Composting Facility, Ripple Glass, and Pioneer Recycling, they're all part of the circular economy, and they're barely even grazing the surface of the potential. So we see that as an industry and an economy that we want to pay attention to and see where the opportunities are for expansion. Christina?
Another just kind of set of constructs that we've already heard a lot of people talking about in terms of growing healthy food and creating green infrastructure and workforce training opportunities are in these areas of regenerative agriculture and green infrastructure. And I'm not the expert in the room at these things. There are a lot of people around this table who are already doing this work, and farmers in your area who are creating these systems to increase biodiversity on their farms, build soil health, use no-till operations, integrating livestock into their operations. and really creating healthy food for their area and for the whole city, really. So how do we increase supporting those organizations and allowing them to teach these practices and grow them even bigger? This also relates to just the ideas of the layers of solutions and stacked benefits that green infrastructure provides, both from the social side of the equation and the ecological and habitat growing side of the education process and solutions to implement. So these are offered just as ideas of constructs and principles to really inform this conversation about what the true north of project development and program development in the Blue River Valley can be. So we'd like to talk through with you briefly before we move into the really project idea brainstorm is what are the criteria for the project? So we'll start with just some thoughts from you on in social circumstances, what are the criteria for projects that you'd like to make sure that we hold as the true north? This is just one example. Maybe you agree with it, maybe you don't, but this is the conversation we'd like to have as a large group now. So please let us know what you think some of those standards are that we need to hold projects to in terms of social impact.
I have one comment. I think it's important. I think it's really, really important. And, you know, this is just a lesson that I learned in like activist work, but that we are being intentional about how we move in communities and making sure that these priorities are the priorities of the community, as well as the community members who live there. Because even if we have good intentions, if they're not in line with what the community wants, our actions and intentions can actually be destructive to that same neighborhood and community we're trying to help. So it's important when we're acting, when we're moving and, you know, doing things with the community, that it's with the community, not to the community. So, you know, I just want to open that up to a lot of the people who actually live in this neighborhood. Are these in line with your priorities? And it's important that these issues are in line with their priorities.
Thank you so much for that thought, Mr. Horn.
This is the community dialogue where we are asking for your priorities. This is exactly what we're talking about right now, which is true north as your priorities across social, economic, and environmental lines.
Would any of the Blue River Valley neighborhood leaders like to speak to this? We had a really rich conversation on our last breakout group about what some of those challenges are. So what are some of the criteria for projects to help you address those challenges? And to Mr. Horn's point, be really intentional about what these projects and programs create the opportunity for.
Christina?
Yes,
one of the things I'd like for us to make sure that we do is to make, when we're dealing with communities, is dealing with them where they are. I think one of the things that the pandemic made people aware of is that not everybody's connected to the digital world like the rest of like we are. And so but those people are still in our community. So one of my big concerns is that we make sure that we have multiple ways to communicate with people so that people don't feel like they're left out of the process just because they can't afford to spend $70 a month for internet and to get on the computer.
Are there some hubs where we can start to draw those community members together to make sure that we're really hearing all of their genius? And Kathy, do you have some suggestions on how we can do better?
Well, with the raging pandemic, it's really a challenge even for us, with our neighborhood groups. But
yeah,
we've tried to do mailings, and people don't open their doors anymore like they used to when I was a lot younger. So leaving flyers and knocking on doors is not always the best method of communication, but I just think that we need to have multiple channels, whether that's some type of a community newspaper or a letter in the mail or a billboard or some yard signs or something that, but we need to be able to have a process for people to get involved. Now, if they don't get involved, that's a whole nother thing, but we don't want to, I mean, I wouldn't want to be excluding anybody. And unfortunately, I know sometimes on some of our city projects that they will move forward after talking to 3 people or 17 people, which clearly is not representative of a population of almost 500,000, but that is the process that we have been following in recent years. And so we really need to try to get away from that so people feel like they're part of the community.
Right.
And part of the process.
And to keep reaching out, to really value that and be patient enough to make it work.
Yes, because just for as an example, Christina, I don't want to belabor it, but the other day we were talking to a city staff person in planning, and they said, well, we don't really have time to have community engagement because meaning the city staff people, our turnaround time working with the developers is so short. Sometimes we don't have enough time to talk to everybody. So we don't.
Yeah, it's the process.
Which is
the process
problematic,
needs to accommodate that. Yeah. Jake, I saw your hand was up, please.
Yeah, just building off a couple things and responding to a couple things. Of course, I agree wholeheartedly with Kathy about investing the time in a deeper communication process. I think you need, your team needs to have some Spanish speaking outreach. So I'm not sure if that's already being covered, but I think there's a whole economy linked to predominantly Spanish speaking workers and businesses that is up and down the Blue River Valley. Some things that really haven't been said, I guess, and I've been listening to a lot of different conversations, is their industrial policy. You know, what is the buy-in from the existing employers and industrial firms along the corridor? I would love to see them kind of join you in this effort and show up when there's neighborhood cleanups. You know, one of the powers of a plant is they've got, 500 workers or whatever. Can they get 50 people out for a cleanup? Getting your feet on the ground and walking the watershed from the Blue River up into the neighborhoods and cleaning up as you go is a powerful experience. Alicia Cates was able to lead us on a walking tour through, and there's so much work to do that's just like actually just cleaning up, like picking up illegal dumping that's been there for decades. And so there's like this existing, that to me is the first layer. Like we can't talk about no-till agriculture if the soil is embedded with tires that are literally decomposing, and they've been decomposing in the soil for 50 years, right? So there's this first layer of restorative and regenerative practices. The restorative piece addresses the social side, which a lot of folks, Christine and Bob and others, have been throwing in the chat, issues of crime and safety. That restorative piece is addressing the human side of the regeneration, right? And that needs to go hand in hand with restoring the economy and not just treat, I think the neighborhoods along the corridor are managing homelessness and people experiencing homelessness the best they can, but they really need resources and support. And so this corridor could become a place for new materials production for affordable housing. It could become a place where, maybe somebody innovates what to do with tires as they decompose. What are some other recycling approaches to that? I mean, we have this whole economy of throwaway places and throwaway materials and sometimes even throwaway people. And it's going to take a different approach. And there's going to need to be buy-in from a lot of folks who maybe don't want to show up to meetings like this. So I'll stop, but thanks.
Really good. Really good. Thank you. We've got Taylor and Gina and team members have been populating our list here. Let's continue to move forward and think about the economic criteria as well. I think this very closely relates to the social criteria, but how do we focus on training and development, as well as jobs, as well as the attraction of businesses that can really create this system of healthy community and economic development. And please keep going in the chat. This is excellent information. And Bob, I think you put some information in the chat about the Blue River Industrial Revitalization Study and your experience working with that. Would you like to share that in terms of what that means for economic criteria?
Well, this study I became aware of through a talk with the EDC over a dozen years ago, and I participated in the study, which took quite a few years to get done with a lot of interaction from similar groups in Philadelphia, New England, West Coast, which also had revived industrial areas. And we put forth a plan which was adopted by the city and has been the nexus for the creation of this Manchester Trafficway rework and the Missouri River Terminal. And the Manchester Trafficway was a north-south corridor that effectively runs alongside of 435 and was a main thoroughfare for the businesses all the way from the river past the Ford plant down to the Leeds plant. And it was chopped up by other roads and other priorities. And now part of the effort to rebuild this industrial area and recreate those jobs will be to provide good access to the area. So that's kind of a nutshell. It's a complicated issue, but to me, the jobs effectively create the secondary jobs, the stores, the banks, and that. And they also work hand in hand with the environmental and green aspects, which are a big part of that study and recommendation. So
true. Thank you, Bob. And Gail, I know you had some thoughts about what are meaningful jobs in this economic development to community members and the larger city as well in terms of workforce development. Is there anything you'd like to add to this criteria conversation?
Well, first to mention, build on what Bob just said. They realigned one of the roads in our area in Eastwood Hills, Coal Mine Road. There actually historically was a coal mine in Kansas City. Coal Mine Road has been realigned to Hardesty, and actually they have renamed that Hardesty, the Coal Mine Road to Winchester has been renamed Manchester. So they are looking at sometime combining all the parts and making the Manchester Trafficway come clear down to what's now Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. So they're following through on some parts of what Bob was talking about. In terms of jobs in our area, for the communities, they need to be ones that are sustainable, that are ones that pay well. That's one thing that we'd have to look at in terms of agricultural jobs under the law that set up minimum wages. Agriculture, if you're considered agricultural worker, you're paid less. So we'd have to be aware of that and see if we're doing agricultural work, how that would affect employment. They're ones that we would want people to be working on something that would have a future. And I like the idea of the green jobs, of manufacturing new technology that would be for vertical wind turbines that they're being looked at to develop, that look kind of like a little fence, that have a set of turbines, small turbines on them that generate energy. Aluminum needs to be processed a particular way to be used for solar cells. So there's different jobs in terms of new ones, because I'm not sure how many will manufacturing type jobs, if we're looking at those, would move back to the United States. So I think we need to be looking at what are new ways of doing things, or new things that tie in with energy, with recycling, with the urban agriculture. What are things that tie in that are things that will be continuing in the future, that wouldn't just be temporary jobs or something of the sort? And also the idea of them having community members be able to work near where they live, or so that we are not looking at increasing transit problems and increasing health problems because of particulates in the air for more cars, etc. So I think there's a lot of things there in terms of looking at the sustainability of the jobs, but also working on sustainable energy and sustainable practices that help protect the environment and help protect the health and enhance the environment and the health of the people here.
Great points. Thank you. And I think that's a good segue into some of the environmental criteria as well. There's a nice balance in some of the chat comments as well as what you just said, Gail. And let's move into the environmental criteria as well. I think Amanda McGee has been putting a lot in the chat. Is there anything that you or Megan would like to say out loud as we move on?
Hey there. Well, no, I think those are just really important things to look at ahead of time. I know that there's a lot of different organizations and different structures that are trying to handle different things all over town and have been over the course of time. If you see, I tried to include, key things that were important to that need to be looked at before they start to affect our economic development over there as well. But the U.S., someone else had brought it up as well, I think Bob, the U.S. Corps of Engineers did a project for the Missouri River, which influences the Blue River. And I know that Heartland Conservation Alliance has worked very hard over the last, I want to say the last time I looked into it was like 12 or 15 years ago at this point. But they've been trying to carefully do restoration for the natural habitat along the river. And those things are really great. There might be some things we need to look at as far as the past land use and the future land use and the zoning and land use surrounding some of the 100-year floodplain that has affected the industries that were there at one point in time and then got wiped out because of natural disasters. So from a lot of the technical stuff that I've done over the last few years, it seems like there's a very quick shift to trying to work with the natural environment rather than against the grain. So those are some things that just should be noted. I don't know where they'll play into the bigger picture.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah.
I would just add to Justin, who I think you were mentioning that Alicia showed you some of the dumping issues that are of concern. Heartland Conservation Alliance does offer cleanups pretty much every month. So if you go to our website, there are events scheduled. Bridging the Gap does similar things. The Little Blue does similar things. So there are a lot of opportunities, but really the issue is to stop the dumping rather than having to continue to clean it up.
So I want to jump in here really quick. And I know it's going back to the economic side, but it was brought up that there was an emphasis of getting younger people back into this. And I don't know if this is in your all's wheelhouse or more the local unions, but the reinvestment of and kind of this idea that you really don't need to go to college to work in your community. Because back in the day, the federal government and the state government used to just train workers and then they would just get into a trade job. And I think for a lot of people, they don't have the finances and or the community doesn't have the time for people to go through a long, strenuous, higher education track. So I think it's important that unions and our local institutions get back into training people in the trades field so that we could get people to work, especially the younger people in these jobs.
Well, and just in a quick response to that, one of the programs that Heartland Conservation is working on right now is through a grant. We are developing what we're calling the Nature Action Crew. And it is taking high school youth, anywhere ages 18 to 24, and providing all the training that they need to be able to be a green steward and paying them a living wage to do that, with the hope that then they are hired by some of the other environmental organizations that need workers. If not, we're happy to have them continue to work for HCA because we have a lot of areas that we can use their efforts on. But we are working with Cornerstones of Care, a program called Build Tribe, which specifically tries to help kids who have been in the foster system and are aging out and have to get a job to get trained and to get working.
These are incredible points. Thank you so much. And I think that the conversation is starting to shift into projects and programs in the area, and we want to make sure we've got time to brainstorm all of those, both ongoing programs and projects and new ones that are needed to really help support those to grow to their full fruition. I'm gonna ask one more time before we move into the next section of our work together today, if there are any more criteria that you'd like to make sure are showing up right now on the spreadsheet. Our team is also going to take all of the chat information and what we're hearing from you in all of these conversations and continue to flesh this out and bring it back. But is there anything else that you'd like to make sure shows up on this list of criteria?
This is Alicia. I would just say, I'm not sure what category this goes into, maybe economic, that whatever the business that hires people or whatever the service is, that there's a high demand. What I've seen in some of these environmental efforts to hire from neighborhoods or people who may not like be in high level administrative places, that they're well-meaning, but there's not really enough jobs. Like maybe there's 5 and there's a lot of, talk around their green jobs, but there's not very many of them, or there's not a high demand for those skills. So whatever the business is, that there's a high demand for the skills, not just in that one area, but just when we think about moving the needle on unemployment, like statistically, that's be thinking in that way. How do we actually move the needle on a statistic category versus just saying that, okay, we're hiring from the neighborhood and it's really only 5 to 10 jobs that people can, once they're filled, there's no more opportunity.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, I'm going to go back into our presentation mode for the moment. We've been populating that spreadsheet with your notes on the criteria in each of these categories. And now we're going to start teeing up our community brainstorming on projects and programs. So let me share this a little bigger. Brian is going to recap some of the work we've done on a project list thus far. I'll share a story about a project just to tee up that conversation. Brian, would you like to talk about this slide?
Sure. So I think everybody is aware that the new Biden administration has, between, ARPA, America Rescue Plan Act, and the new infrastructure bill, that there's more money available as grants than there has been in a long time. And so the representatives on many different levels, city, state, federal, there's competitive grants essentially that we're trying to, take all this, these recommendations from conversations like this and turn it into grant applications so that we have the resources to, build this, to enhance the current state of the Blue River Valley to something that we all know is possible. And so we've heard a lot actually from each other on some of these already. Like I've heard people talk about Manchester Trafficway, Municipal Farm. I've heard people talk about workforce development, which is, we call that the Civilian Climate Corps, which is like green jobs and a apprenticeship program to get smart on, essentially a trade school. Just to kind of share, these are some things that are on our radar already in terms of getting access to brownfield funds. There's $1.5 billion available, and there's plenty of brownfields that in this area. So let's get that working and iron the fire. There is the municipal farm that folks have mentioned, which is, currently being used, I'd say, but still underutilized. And as an asset in the community. On transportation, we did mention Manchester, which helps with the northern end in the industrial area, but a lot of people don't know this, but pretty easily, this area has 3 large trail systems, and we could have, in the outdoor recreation grants that are available, we could create the largest trail system in the United States just by connecting, I think, 8 miles of trails. And so that starts to change, the attractiveness and the credibility of when we talk about outdoor recreation earlier, it's already that, and it's just kind of coming more into its own identity and finishing off some of the bespoke projects from various departments and groups. And in terms of workforce development, economic gardening is a concept where you're essentially focusing on existing companies that have 1 million or 10 million in revenue and at least 10 employees, and you're helping them grow and scale and hire locally. So these are companies that I'm seeing in the chat that you've heard of before that are meaningful jobs, like Missouri Organic or Ripple Glass, and helping them grow so that we can grow along with them. And finally, I talk a lot about financial innovation and blended finance. And what that means is whether it's philanthropy, it's a 0 interest loan, it's a interest loan to start a business, or it's a actual investment in a equipment or to help jumpstart different companies and economies. There's a lot that we can do with all these types of financial instruments, and micro grants I think are really exciting because with a little bit of money, we can create a lot of momentum to kind of get some of these project ideas going without a lot of bureaucracy and, so as long as some conditions are met. So those are some of the things that we're seeing, and we're hoping to upgrade that based off the comments and continue to sort of cherry pick the opportunities that we're seeing on the local city, state, and federal level with the ideas that are coming up. So, Christina?
Thanks, Brian. And I'm seeing some more great ideas coming in on the chat. We will be integrating these into the criteria as well, so keep it going. And yes, Kathy, I do think the Linwood corridor is one of those plans we need to make sure is incorporated in our thinking and our work and all the study that has come before. So one more example, just to give you a little brain teaser, our team has been doing a lot of study on other industrial areas throughout the country and throughout the world that we can look to as examples and expand our team's brain power to learn from them. One of them I just wanted to share with you before we go into our project brainstorming session is about this Menominee River Valley redevelopment and community park. I put the website up there if you'd like to take a look at it more, but this is in Milwaukee. First, this was a homeland to many indigenous people, including the Potawatomi. The Menominee River Valley in Milwaukee became a major industrial site in the 1800s through the mid 1900s. But by the late 1980s, the Milwaukee Road shops were closed and had degenerated into a 120-acre site of abandoned buildings and rail yard. The private development community ignored this site because of its poor access, lack of infrastructure, frequent flooding, unstable soil conditions, derelict buildings, and soil contamination, which is a familiar situation for us. A public-private partnership called the Menominee Valley Partners was created in 1999 with a small team of employees and a very diverse board, including community members and elected officials. The MVP fostered relationships, recruited businesses, and convened stakeholders to shepherd a development that would benefit the entire community. And in 2002, a national design competition produced an innovative master plan. In 2003, the city acquired the site and began remediating environmental conditions, constructing new infrastructure, and brought the site out of the floodplain through a partnership with their DOT that redirected fill from a different large ongoing infrastructure project to this project and saved many, many, many thousands of truckloads of material from landfill in that process as well. The Department of Natural Resources completed 2 miles of the Hank Aaron State Trail through this project, and it winds through the heart of the site, providing recreational trails that are amenity both to neighborhoods and employees here. Some growing companies showed vision and began construction before the new roads and infrastructure was even existing on the site. Job density and wage guidelines developed by the MVP private-public organization were also used by the city in land sale agreements. So this new Menominee Valley Industrial Center is now home to 14 businesses that have created more than 1,400 jobs, a renowned green infrastructure stormwater treatment system, trails, green space, playing fields, a restored riverbank, boat launches, and 45 acres of native prairie and woodland along the river. We know that we have a lot more acreage than this one project, but it is one model that we're looking to for how the partnerships and the organizational capacity of a big vision project like this can work. So just wanted to share that with you and hope it's one of those things that starts to bring together social, economic, and environmental solutions in one place. So as we move into this next section of our work together, and let me just check the time, it's right at 11. So we have 30 minutes together here for the rest of the day. We'd like to spend a little bit of time at the end, just kind of synthesizing and recapping together and talking about our next steps. So let's plan to talk about these project opportunities for the next 20 minutes and give ourselves a little breathing room at the end of this. So given the criteria that we have discussed and some of these bigger assets and challenges in the area, what are the most important projects to you that are either ongoing or that need to be developed in the area that really start to create some of these system connections? And again, we'll take notes in the background and bring it right back to you to make sure that we've gotten it right. And do please feel free to talk about your own projects that you're doing in the area too, to make sure that we're all completely aware of all the ongoing great work that you're doing.
Hi, this is Nadja
Hey,
with the
Nadja.
Mark Solid Waste Management District, and I'd like to share a couple of things. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm working on an illegal dumping initiative with some partners actually that are on this call. And I'd really like to second what Jake said earlier about dealing with that first layer of restorative, restoring our communities. And truly illegal dumping, as you all know, is really important. And I think the cleanups are important and meaningful, but it's a systemic problem. It's a complex problem, and we need to do something better and more sustainable in dealing with illegal dumping. And there's lots of answers to that. We need to get people at the table that are going to be able to make a difference and are committed to looking at this in a collaborative way. So, so just on that note, there is money available with the Mark Solid Waste Management District. Primarily, our dollars are spent for diverting waste from the landfill, but we are allowed to use our dollars on illegal dumping. So there's some real opportunity here, and I'm really hoping. I've been working with Dina and Kathy and Heartland Conservation Alliance on this, and we really launched it in July, but we need to continue working on that. The other thing I wanted to share in terms of so as you know, we have grant dollars, and so we can put money toward projects that you guys were talking about earlier, like the recycling job, for example. And I'd just like to share with you a really good model. Is the St. Vincent de Paul of Lane County. That's over in Eugene, Oregon. And they have done some amazing work with providing jobs, keeping stuff out of the landfill. So I encourage you to look at that. St. Vincent de Paul of Lane County. They have like a glass foundry. They make things out of recycled glass. They recycle books. They have a thriving thrift store. They recycle mattresses, which actually is a business in the area right by the Veterans Hospital, Avenue of Life. Got several grants from us, and I helped start a mattress recycling program, and it has provided jobs, with real training skills, and people have gone through there and moved on to other jobs. So that, to me, is a success story for sure. So if you want to know more about our grants, please. You know where to find me. I work at Mark, so love to talk with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nadja. Great input.
Hi, this is Janice Love with the Salvation Army, and this has been helpful for me as we are getting ready to do a building campaign right here on 9th Street. We're tearing down and building on site. So what I'm hearing for us as I'm working with architects is the importance of green space, and that making sure we have ample green space. And I'm also going to bring to them about the garden prospects of having a community garden, what that will look at, but and what we could do now. So this has been very helpful as we are getting ready to do this major campaign for this area and extending it out. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Major Love. Could you share just a little bit about some of the programs that are coming out of your facility there in the Northeast?
Well, we already do a Celebrate Recovery program, and this week we started job search. People could call and make appointments and come into our computer lab and work with the staff to do job search and resume writing for free. In our new building, we're already looking at setting up places for people to plug in their cars. We're making sure that's a part of it. We also we work with Global FC for tutoring for refugee children. And just the normal of EA, we still do a feeding program Monday through Thursday. And it's pretty busy, but we're gonna be working this summer on hopefully some outreach with the school programs, and that's still in the works. But my main thing right now is getting in tow with the building campaign and making sure we have the programs that the community wants. We've done a needs assessment, so we're trying to stay true to what the community have stated that they want in the new building.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Lots of great ideas coming into the chat. Please go ahead and speak up, anybody who would like to.
Let me throw in one thought. We have, as I say, I've lived in the area 30 years, and I've seen the politicians work on the blighted east side and emphasize 18th and Vine, put in a jazz museum, put in the Negro Leagues baseball museum, and revitalize 18th Street into some nice shops and that. But have you ever seen a city effort to publicize the area? They are always publicizing the River Key, they're publicizing Midtown, they're publicizing Zona Rosa, and the streetcar runs north and south, and they're talking about moving it across the river, and they're not running it into the 18th and Vine area yet. You know, they give lip service to it, but they don't carry it. And it's the whole attitude that the east side is kind of blighted, and let's talk about it, but kind of forget about it. So I think we need to start with the city emphasis on the nuts and bolts of cleanup, and then kind of re-emphasize that this is a neighborhood.
Well, in connection with this is a neighborhood, one of the initiatives that Heartland Conservation Alliance works on is working with urban neighborhoods. Kathleen Persley has been greatly involved in a tremendous asset in the Dunbar area. We've tried to walk alongside that. We are now working on a project in the Palestine community to try to revitalize and develop a reuse plan for about 40 acres of urban forest. So we have been trying to reach out to the community to see, you know, what are their ideas about how we can improve that space and make it good for the environment and good for the community as well.
Awesome. What about folks that we haven't heard from that might not want to speak up, but you have a awesome project idea, and I would encourage folks to think big.
Hello, this is Chrissy. I've mentioned it earlier, just kind of I think in our breakout session, but it seems to me like the reason that, you know, it's easier to say promote an 18th and Vine is because they have an identity that's promotable. I think that as we move forward here, coming together with the environmental focus, the natural resources and recreation focus, and just kind of placemaking, making sure that we are putting that identity and making it easily understood by people will really help them to understand the multiple pieces that are kind of connecting into this broader idea. And I know that there are efforts right now to do this better in a lot of our areas, but specifically ones that are just kind of out there, kind of like hidden secrets, best kept secrets, which I consider this this naturescape to be. I think that will be really helpful to help people understand what the goal here is, because if we can, you know, create a kind of a brand identity around this concept, it's easier for people to, you know, have their own ideas and say, well, that makes sense, and I want to plug in, or well, I think that, you know, I want to help with this or that. And so I think that will help us to get more buy-in and to be better understood as a project. And I think that there'll be opportunities moving forward in our local government to that will assist in that. And I'm planning to help with that. So I'm just excited that everybody is all pretty on the same page here about all of these good ideas and all of the opportunity here. So anything I can do to help with that so that this could be viewed as, you know, kind of an asset of Kansas City that is a big deal, that is worth taking a look, that is worth investing in and participating in, because we don't really have anything else like this in the city with all of this opportunity here. So I think that that would be a big point for me, is just helping people understand what we're trying to do here, because it's very worthy. And I think that a lot of people would really, really like these ideas.
Thank you so much. Brett, I think you have your hand up.
I just want to talk a little bit about, roadside pollinator habitat. And it's not really, I mean, something that would be isolated to that area, but I think it, could work well, in conjunction with that watershed area. And so I think, can, kind of help the environment, because it, because it have to, because it doesn't have to be mowed as much. And then, there might be, I mean, like some management opportunities, I mean, as far as job training. So I think that might be, that might be a possibility as well.
Great, thank you. Alicia?
So this isn't a fully formed idea, but I was thinking about in the neighborhoods, I see a lot of entrepreneurs. There are tons of contractors. So I know that people are doing all kinds of contractor work. And so whatever the big idea is to create jobs or to restore around the river, the neighborhoods, how can we kind of inventory the entrepreneurs who are in the neighborhoods along the river, and then figure out, based on what they're doing, how can we bring more business to them through an effort to restore the river.
Great, thank you.
Alicia, we actually came up with we put together a directory of about all the companies in the Blue River Valley that we're trying to upgrade and make, fully up to date. Mm-hmm. So that is on that we're starting that effort. And I think that entrepreneurship is different than jobs. And I think making space for both of them is important.
Yeah, and maybe even some of the neighborhood leaders here, like, because there are all these unspoken systems and ways that people work together economically that aren't considered legit by our government, or they don't show up on the stats. And so maybe like through neighborhood leaders, you can uncover some of those people who would be interested in either getting more business or making their business a part of the system somehow, that just kind of stay below the radar. I think that'd be a worthwhile effort.
Just saw your last comment, Jake. Will you tell us a little about it?
Yeah, so we were asked by Kauffman Foundation to apply our community engaged research approach to the issue of entrepreneurship, the kind of work that Alicia Cates is talking about. So we'll be interviewing folks and doing the kind of deep dive that Alicia Cates just mentioned in terms of understanding what we're calling everyday entrepreneurship, which is kind of sometimes under the radar. It might be informal, and understanding, some of the obstacles to neighborhood-based entrepreneurship in Kansas City. So we'll definitely follow up with Alicia, and anyone else who would like to be involved, just let us know.
Yes, please. Brian, I noticed that you were framing the question a little bit differently as well. Would you like to prompt with that?
Sure. I guess what's unique about this moment is, in short order, there's a bunch of due dates for grants. And so really what we're asking here is, what projects do we want to put on some of those grant applications that are really important? And so the tighter we can frame it and the bigger they are, some of them are, $10 million grants for outdoor recreation or good jobs or, things like that. So just to kind of give a window into where this is coming from. Alicia's got her hand raised and a few people are typing.
Is there a way to, as we're developing business, to get also the community involved in educating one another about this circular economy concept as well? And I know it just over the last couple of decades, I know there's been efforts to educate the community about environment, but as we're thinking about business, how can we do it in a practical way where people are more interested? Like people who may not even show up to a meeting like this are interested in what's happening and can be advocates for it. Because when a business comes and then you do the push as the business is coming and you try to educate, it's a little bit too late. And so in parallel with developing these business ideas and job, how can we continue to, I guess, for lack of a better word, do the marketing and education around environment and circular economy? I know at a regional level, there's been materials developed, but that's mostly for developers and I think municipalities, but how do we do it for the everyday people along with these efforts that you're trying to do here?
Yeah, if you want to, if anybody wants, maybe there's something we could offer as a next step is we could do another session just on circular economy and green jobs and talk a little bit more directly about what it is.
Yeah, this is Nadja again. I would say, hearing from Terry McDonald, who started that St. Vincent de Paul, or he didn't start it, his dad did, could be really enlightening. I think it's a really great model, and I'd be happy to help set something up if that's of interest.
That sounds really exciting. Yeah, and we're going to ask for everyone who's present. We didn't require a registration for this meeting. We wanted to keep it wide open, but anyone who would like to stay in touch on this process and continue to work together, whether that's on creating grants, or talking about projects, or learning from other great projects that are happening around the country, please do put your contact information in the chat and we will stay in touch with you and follow up not only on all the notes we've been taking, but also these next steps and the potential to get together and have some conversations with other people doing this work. Any other project ideas you'd like to say out loud? Of course, we're collecting all of these coming through in the chat. Would anybody else like to describe them out loud? Jamie, I see your raised hand.
Hi, I know there's been a lot of talk about recreation, and I really think Kansas City is a destination city. I've had these thoughts for a while about the ballparks are always, talking about having the ballpark downtown. I don't understand why we don't develop around the ballparks. And I was really happy to see the bike trail come along, and I would love to see that progress. I don't know if anybody's had thoughts along these lines.
I was looking for Justin Short to speak up. I know he's been very involved on that ball field. Are you still there, Justin?
Justin said a little while ago he had to step away.
Oh, okay.
Well, the ballpark is actually a Jackson County issue.
Mm-hmm.
County owns the land as well as the ballparks it sits on. I think it's, I don't want to give my opinion on it today, but I think it's, I completely agree with you. It would just, you can't plop a stadium in the middle of downtown when, the downtown area already has a lot of problems, as well as if you know anything about the history of stadiums, they're not the best neighborhoods. They destabilize neighborhoods, and, a lot of them have been built on, buying up land and pushing Black and brown folks out of that land. So I completely agree with that sentiment.
Does anybody who is posting chats want to speak to any of their comments? I see lots of really interesting ideas.
I guess I would just say with Kathy Bursley's work in both Dunbar Park and the Yvonne Wilson Park, as well as some of the restorative work, we could really, come together with a lot of the neighborhoods, including Blue Valley, and have some catalytic projects that people can come and see and understand the bigger vision. Sometimes people need to see a small example quickly to understand, okay, what are these folks doing, and that they're here to have an impact and sort of a long-term bigger vision. I think, spending time over the last year with Kathy and Dunbar and observing the scrapper economy, there needs to be a real serious heart-to-heart with some of these businesses about their current environmental impact, which is generally unmitigated on neighborhoods. And while folks have said that the illegal dumping issue is complicated and complex, I think a little bit of enforcement from the county and the city saying, if you don't get a hold of the folks who are illegally dumping across the street from you, we're going to shut you down. If the people who come here to scrap and to recycle, if they go turn around and dump what they can't scrap in these neighborhoods, we're going to shut you down, Langley, because this has gone on way too long. And then the tire shops are the same way. We have some immediate needs that are not abstract at all. And it's basically stopping the harm. You can't do regenerative work. You can't do restorative work until you stop the harm. And we're not talking about that, which is the first step. And so, it's really frustrating to try to do the pie in the sky work when the folks across the street keep, dumping on you. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Incredibly important point. And I think that was echoed with Bob's statements and with Naja's and with each of the neighborhood leaders and what they've said today too. And take that to heart. That's an incredibly important program to start with. And the notion of that some of these first catalytic projects can be smaller ones, they can be in public spaces, they can be on parks land. Is there anything else that folks would like to bring up as kind of those near-term early win projects that we should really focus with the communities on right away? In addition, of course, to the work that Naja and community are doing.
Just to say that this is not the only moment to talk about projects and share your ideas. This is really the beginning of regeneration of the conversation. So there will be a lot more as you're going out to the day and next week. There'll be many more opportunities to share.
Absolutely. And I know we're coming to the end of our time here. Please be assured we're gathering all of this great input from you. We'll send it back to you if you've supplied your contact information here and given us notification that you'd like to be kept in the loop to find ways to do projects with you. Last question from Jake. Does the Foundation for Regeneration have a community advisory board? And how can we share project ideas after this meeting? So maybe Brian, would you like to address that?
We don't have a community advisory board, but that's a good idea. I think Alicia, yes, we'll share everything if we get your email.
Okay. I'm gonna pull up a screen. Can you see the blue screen right now? Somebody shout out if you can see this.
Yes, we can.
Okay, and we've just got a little bit of information to share with you on next steps. Taylor, would you like to walk us through the social pinpoint?
Yes, do you mind if I share my screen?
Go right ahead.
I think it's saying you need to stop sharing before I can share, sorry.
Okay, will do.
Awesome. So I know Jacob mentioned in the chat wanting a little bit of information about this map, and this is going to be the best way for you all to continue to give us information about projects, or if you think of a concern, problem, issue that we should know later on, this is where you'll go. So when you first get on the website here, you'll see this pop up, and it really is just describing how to use the map. So I'm going to go ahead and just fly through that because I'm going to show you how to do it a little bit easier here. So if you accept that and you're like, oh no, I forgot how to use the map, I forgot what it said, over here in the about, it has the same exact information. I will point out right now we have this map open to accept comments until midnight on Tuesday, February 15th. So you have a few weeks to get in here, share it with other people in the neighborhood, and plenty of time to share. So a little bit of how this map works. Up here in this top right corner, there's a few tools. One thing I really like, there was mention about the need for translation. The nice thing about this map is it has Google Translate translations already embedded. So you can select just about any language and it will translate the entire map. From the roads to all of our text in here, everything will be translated, which is great. There's share options. So if you want a quick way to share this with other people in the neighborhood, that's right here. You can filter if you want to see only what other people's project ideas are. You could turn everything else off and only project ideas will show up. So in terms of actually putting on the map here, you see we have this zoom in feature. We have 3 different ways you can participate with project idea, historic fact, or problem issue. If you have something you want to share that doesn't quite fit into one of those, pick which one you think is best because we still want to hear about what you have to say. So if I know of a problem area that the team should know, kind of maybe right here in this area, I would drag and drop that icon. You leave your comment and your email so we can follow up with you if we have additional questions or want to talk more about it. And if you have like a photo even, that would help describe. So if maybe this is your major illegal dumping and you really want us to get a feel for how real it is, attach a picture so we can see. And then the great thing is once you've put that comment there and you submit, it'll stay there and your other community members can come in, they can open your comment. So for example, we put some of our anchor businesses in here so you can see what it will look like, but there'll be a like, dislike, or start a discussion. So if someone left maybe something you don't completely agree with or you have more information, start a discussion, always be respectful, of course, but it is important, you know, that we hear from you all. So if you, one thing I'll point out, if you have a fact or an issue that you want to let us know about, make sure it's not already on the map and instead start a discussion and engage with people that had the similar idea. And then one other thing I'll point out is over here on the left-hand side, we have little information about community, industry, and nature. We'll continue to update this map as we learn more and engage with you all. And if you see something on here that's wrong or you want to talk to me about, over here in the about is my contact information. So I want to make sure we are the most accurate, up to date on this map. I'll point out one more thing. So the potential development sites, this was taken from the last plan created here in the Blue River Valley area. And so these were the main sites identified in that. So these are not necessarily projects that we're moving forward with as part of this process, but ones that have been identified in the past. So if you have really strong opinions about any of these potential sites that have been previously identified, start a discussion and let's talk about it and see if that's something the community does feel is really important to move forward with, or maybe is something that we should be holding on to in our back pocket and other things are more important. So that is kind of a very quick overview. So if you have questions now, please let me know, or if you want to email me later, all my information is on the map as well.
Great job. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to go back to just wrap up comments. Brian, is there anything you'd like to say about some of those next steps that we can offer in addition to what we've heard from some of our participants today?
I'm on mute. I don't know if you're going to put back on the screen, but
sure.
I just feel like this is just the tip of the iceberg, and meeting each other, somewhat breaking bread in the morning on Saturday, and the beginning of a potentially decade plus conversation around the Blue River Valley. So I would love to get to know each of you and walk the neighborhoods and talk about more projects and get feedback on some of our writing and pretty much go deeper. But we want to just consistently add value to the conversation and bring in new ideas and as we're learning. And so if you are interested in, we talked about green jobs and circular economy, I'd be happy to organize a quick workshop on that so we can go deeper. Just let us know if there's interest in that. We will pull that together. Same thing with open source manufacturing. There is an opportunity. We talked about, affordable housing, being able to build open source products that are built in the Blue River Valley, which are, jobs. There's a whole thing there. If anybody's following the cryptocurrency movement, it really, like I said earlier, there's more tools at our fingertips than there has been in a really long time. And so we'd love to host a session on that. What does that mean in terms of a wealth generation opportunity for people of concern in the Blue River Valley? So what can you do just to kind of get oriented around these different topics that we see, could be the economies of the future? So let us know if this is what you want, and we will, if we have a couple folks, if it's just one person, I'll talk to that person. If it's multiple people, we can organize a workshop.
So Brian, I have one more comment, and this is going to be the last time I speak in this meeting, but I just thought I should bring it up because it does bother me quite a bit. I think it is absolutely important that we have some form of a community advisory board or committee, because I think today you all did a phenomenal job, and it's important we listen to the community, but it's another thing making sure that they have a seat at the table throughout this process and throughout this plan. I mean, them having a seat at the table, a committee or a board will guarantee that seat at the table. So I think it's one thing listening to the community, but it's another thing empowering them and making sure that this is their plan, that this is, their process. So I appreciate you all doing this, but I just thought I should, that shouldn't have been feedback. That should be a guarantee that we give these communities a seat at the table.
That's a great point, Mr. Horn. And making those next steps to make that community advisory board, put it in place, and create a process by which that community advisory board is a collaborative team member every single step of the way and really has the accountability of this team at their fingertips is incredibly important. I agree. Okay, we are at 11:34, and so we'll be following up with all of you and making sure that we create that system of accountability with you and the leaders of these neighborhoods, and make sure that we've got a healthy way to progress that's seated in equity and environmental conservation and great new economic opportunities. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. That's no small order. Thank you so much for being here today. And like Brian said, just the beginning of great things to come. Thank you so much. I'll hang on if anybody needs to talk further.